Hey, what is up, mortals? Welcome to part 1 season 1 of What If Deku Was Trained by Aizawa. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. It was a rainy day in Musutafu, lightning thundering from up above. Ha, 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 Izuku Midoriya was running in an alleyway, his breath heavy. Get back here, you little runt. A villain yelled out from behind the boy. As somebody help me, Izuku cried out. He was never much of a runner, especially when he got into trouble. But now, the boy found himself faced with the danger of being stabbed and killed. Nobody is going to save you now. The villain yelled out in an angered voice that was muffled by a face mask that covered his face. Where did it all go wrong? Izuku thought to himself as he turned his gaze over his shoulder to see the villain still running after him, a knife gripped tightly in both of his hands. A few minutes earlier, Izuku Midoriya was walking home from school. In Midoriya, his mother had asked him to buy some groceries on his way home, and that was what the boy intended on doing. The streets of Musutafu were filled to the brim with a blockage and a backlog in pedestrians, meaning that either there was a big accident or there was a villain attack. Maybe I could take a shortcut, Izuku thought to himself as he slowly passed by an alleyway. As much as the boy would love to see what was going on and write down what happened in his notes, he needed to make it to the grocery store before it began to rain. Looking up at the sky, the boy took in the sight of the dark clouds that looked ready to burst at a second's notice up above. Taking a quick second to think, the boy ultimately decided it was better to take the shortcut. It's now or never. Deku turned his body and entered the alleyway. It was a dark and creepy alleyway with an eerie feeling. It had the usual dumpsters with a few trash bags lying here and there. Izuku found this alleyway to be a bit out of sorts, picking up on the eerie feeling. But he decided to ignore the eerie feeling and continued on his way along the alleyway. No, please stop, Arg. The sound of a stranger's horrid scream caught Izuku's attention once he had made it far into the alleyway. Now, if you had just given me your money, I would have let you get away. But you decided to be stupid. The hoarse and dry voice scared Izuku. It was something he had never heard before, and his instincts told him to run, but his feet wouldn't move. The screams of horror had originated from inside a dumpster right behind Izuku, which struck him with fear. Fresh air. A blood-tattered villain covered in black clothing stained with the stench of the dumpster shoved the lid of the dumpster out of his way and sprang right out of it, landing in the alleyway right behind Izuku. Ape! Izuku yelped, his head slowly turning so that he could see the villain behind him. What do we have here? The villain asked rhetorically. I, the boy stuttered, struggling to find words to use. Sorry, what was that? The villain mocked, taking a step towards Izuku. He had originally sheathed a knife in a leather pouch hidden under his jacket, but now he had to take it out again. Izuku wanted to say something in response, but he couldn't, and with his life on the line his legs gained strength. I can't die here, Izuku thought, taking off in the direction of a corner at the end of the alleyway, which was in the opposite direction of all the civilians that this psycho could potentially kill. Running won't help you, kid. Izuku turned his head to see behind him once he reached the corner, his eyes widening. I've got you. The villain raised his voice in excitement, but Izuku thought quickly. Continuing his run, he grabbed onto a trash bag and passed and threw it at the villain just in time to avoid being stabbed. This kid has guts, the villain thought. Having come to a complete halt, gritting his teeth, he pulled his knife right out of the trash bag and threw the trash bag to the side. The villain then continued his pursuit on Izuku, who had now made a somewhat large gap between them. Think, Izuku, think. The green-haired boy thought to himself as droplets of water began to fall from the sky up above. He was thinking frantically and desperately. His life was in more danger than it had ever been, and the only thing he could do about it was run. No matter where you go, kid, I'll find you. The villain screamed from behind. He was now closing the gap in between he and Izuku. The boy turned his head to face the villain again, his eyes widening even more. I need help, I need help, I need help. Izuku's thoughts grew more frantic as he took a turn into another alleyway while the rain grew more potent. You can't run forever, boy. The villain taunted Izuku again. He was enjoying this little exercise he was getting. I need help, I need help, I need help. The words continued to rush in Izuku's mind from side to side, spinning in circles. Ha, ha, ha. The boy hated to admit it, but the villain was right. He was running out of breath. Get back here, you little runt. The villain yelled out. He was beginning to get impatient, which luckily for Izuku was due to the lack of the villain's own stamina, which had caused his breath to steepen as well. As somebody help me, the boy cried out, taking yet another turn around a corner. This alleyway was also filled with trash bags and trash cans, a few dumpsters as well. Nobody is going to save you now, the villain yelled as Izuku took yet another turn about halfway down the alleyway. And unfortunately for the emerald green-eyed boy, it was a dead end. And no, Izuku spoke in a whisper once he reached the end of the alleyway. His face had gone pale and he remained panting for air, slightly hunched over against the wall. I told you, kid, no one will save you, the villain said with a smile under his mask. Aye. Izuku tried to talk again, but no words managed to leave his mouth. I was planning on making your death painless, but since you ran, I think I'll just kill you slowly. The blood-stained villain yelled at Izuku as he ran to Izuku, ready to stab him right in the gut. Izuku screamed out, shielding his head and chest with his arms while closing his eyes. Intermission. Honey. This video was sponsored by Honey. Honey is a free browser add-on available on Google, Opera, Firefox, Safari. If it's a browser, it is Honey. Honey automatically saves you money when you check out on sites like Amazon, Papa John's, and Kohl's. Wherever you shop, it's a good chance that Honey can save you money. All you have to do when you're checking out at these big sites is click that little orange button, and it will scan the entire internet and find discount codes for you. It takes 2 clicks to install Honey. Now anytime you check out, Honey will scan the whole internet and find coupon codes for you. If there is a coupon code, they will find it, and if there's not a coupon code, you can rest assured that you are getting the best price possible. If you install Honey right now, you can save so much money on your online shopping doing nothing. There's no reason not to install Honey. It takes 2 clicks, 10 million people use it, 100,000 5-star reviews. Unless you hate money, you should install Honey. Use the link in the description to start saving money now. Continuation. DAE. The villain's roar was cut short, followed by the sound of material wrapping around something and the sound of someone getting kicked really hard. Ha, it's too early for this. A tired voice caught Izuku's attention and slowly he opened his eyes. To his surprise and immediate delight, the Erasure hero, Eraserhead, was standing in front of him, the material of his scarf wrapped tightly around the entirety of the villain who had tried to kill him just moments ago lay on the floor. Are you all right, kid? Eraserhead spoke in a tired yet firm tone. His black outfit had been soaked in the rain, while his long wet black hair covered part of his yellow goggles. I thank you, Izuku sputtered out while bowing his head. Oh my god, it's Eraserhead, Izuku thought to himself, the feeling of danger immediately seeping out from his mind. No problem, kid. Now are you hurt anywhere? Eraserhead said, his voice now slightly filled with annoyance due to his question not being answered. And no, Izuku said in a slightly raised voice. Slowly he raised his head a bit and gazed at his idol. Growing up, unlike the other kids in his class, and specifically unlike Bakugo, Izuku had taken a liking to the small-time hero Eraserhead. The way that the hero handled his situations without the need of a flashy or powerful quirk always amazed Izuku, especially his use of martial arts and the material scarf that he always carried around. Almost immediately going into fanboy mode, Izuku pulled his bag off his back despite the pouring rain and reached into it, taking out his notebook. See, can you sign this, Mr. Eraserhead, sir? Izuku said, attempting to not stutter. Meanwhile, Eraserhead just blinked under his goggles. This kid, Eraserhead thought to himself before opening his mouth. You are aware that you almost died, right? Eraserhead asked in a blunt tone that remained tired. Why, yes I am, but the boy's voice was cut off by a sigh from Eraserhead. And you're fine with that? Eraserhead asked again, not giving the boy a chance to continue on about getting his now completely soaked book signed. Well, heroes face life or death situations every day. And I want to be a hero. And to do that, I need to be ready to face death. Izuku spoke the words without a hint of any second thoughts, which impressed Eraserhead a small bit. Is that so? Eraserhead started, looking Deku up and down to get an idea of whether or not this kid was hero material, and continued. And why do you want to be a hero? The villain remained at the back of Eraserhead's mind, but the topic of conversation intrigued him. I want to be a hero that saves everyone to defeat the villain. But I can't do that since I am quirkless. The boy's voice went from passionate to disappointed in an instant. Is that so? You've got a good heart, kid. Eraserhead stood up, picking up the villain and resting him over his shoulder. MMMMMPH. The villain seemed to be threatening the hero, but his muffled voice couldn't make it through the material of Eraserhead's scar. Yes, I haven't forgotten about you, Eraserhead said in a tired tone, turning his head to gaze at the villain before returning his gaze to Izuku, who was now behind him. I'd say you've got what it takes to be a hero, kid. But you don't have a quirk, so I'm afraid that's not happening, Aizawa said in a cold tone. Izuku was expecting the words to come from his idol's mouth, yet they still brought tears to his eyes. The memories of how he had wanted an amazing quirk like All Might's flashed in his mind. How the doctor had told him he wouldn't get a quirk, and how his mother just cried and yelped out apologies when he had asked her if he could still become a hero. How Bakugo and his lackeys had bullied him in just a few moments ago when he was defenseless. The boy started as the tears began to form in his eyes. Eraserhead just continued walking, ignoring the boy. How did you manage to become a hero despite only having an eye-related quirk? It was pain to do so, but Izuku forced the words out of his mouth in one single sentence, causing Eraserhead to pause in his tracks. Having an eye-related quirk that didn't even affect how fast he could perceive or anything of the sort. He faced similar issues to a quirkless person, but he forced his way through it all. He had gotten into UA despite what everyone else was saying. He had graduated from UA despite what everyone else told him, and he had become a good hero despite the hate he had received. So, the words reached him, they reached into his soul, and they reached deep into it, to memories of an old friend giving him a reason to keep going despite his weakness. I trained, kid, I trained really hard, Aizawa said, not yet continuing to walk. Then please teach me. The words reached Aizawa, but he wasn't surprised at all. He was half expecting the kid to ask for training of some kind. Yet despite that, for the first time in that conversation, Eraserhead hesitated. How old are you, kid? A small spring of hope formed in the depths of Izuku's stomach. 12, sir. The chance of it was small, but if Eraserhead was contemplating his question, then there was a chance he could have his dreams realized. 12, and he managed to run away from this thug. Eraserhead didn't know why, but he was contemplating whether or not he should train this kid. He was 12 and thus had 2 years to learn what he had learnt during his time at UA, which meant if this kid had the ability to learn what he could do, then this kid stood a chance at actually becoming a hero. Today is a Friday, right? Aizawa asked, causing Izuku's hope to sprout. Why, yes, Eraserhead, sir. Izuku replied, and Eraserhead heaved a sigh. Tomorrow, the forest at 6 a.m. on the dot, don't be late. Eraserhead was willing to give this boy a shot. Oh, by the way, what is your name, kid? Your first name? The last thing Eraserhead wanted was a convict running around with the full name of a child that was the root cause of his being arrested, so he corrected himself quickly. It's Izuku, Mr. Eraserhead. Eraserhead nodded and began to walk again. Nice name, kid. From now on, call me Sensei Aizawa. Izuku's face lit up, a smile forming on his face. Thank you, Sensei Aizawa. Tears of joy began to flow down Izuku's cheeks in typical Midoriya fashion as the rain began to settle down. Izuku thought about the forest where he and Bakugo had played when they were kids and packed away his now-soaked book. Aizawa didn't show it, but he was looking forward to seeing what this Izuku kid had in store for him. He was hoping for the best, but he was also expecting the worst. If the kid couldn't do what he had the beginnings of a plan for him, then his chances of becoming a hero would dissipate in an instant. But if he could pull through, then Aizawa would have a protoge, and by the look on the boy's face, Aizawa could tell that he was prepared for either option. Once Aizawa was out of sight, Izuku ran home and told his mother about the events of that afternoon, completely forgetting to buy the groceries she had asked him to buy. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day.